365, and we have two fantastic innovators and herbalists here with us, Alex Queathem. Am I saying that right, Alex?
Yeah, you got
Alex
it right.
Queathem and Crystal Stevens, here to do an introduction to community herbalism. They both have co-founded the Tend and Flourish School of Botanicals here in the Midwest. And this is the local food movement panel of growing health in your backyard. And when I say backyard, I'm talking about the community's backyard. When I was working up in Maine, when we said we were going to go for a little hike in the backyard, that was like 10,000 acres of wilderness. So everyone has their own little plot of backyard, but we're talking about those folks in our region. This is our community backyard, and if we can all work together to make it a healthy space to grow food, grow herbs, take care of ourselves, that's what we're here to talk about tonight with these wonderful women, Alex and Crystal. So I'm going to let them take it away. If you have any questions whatsoever, please put them in the chat and we'll feed them to them when it makes the most sense. All right, welcome Alex and Crystal. Thanks for being here tonight. Oh, and also I wanted to say a shout out to our sponsors, the Solid Waste Management District of St. Louis, Jefferson County, Missouri Department of Natural Resources, and Sauce Magazine, without whom support we won't be able to bring you these wonderful programs.
Of course, we can't forget about those sponsors.
Love them. Yeah, you go ahead and you talk about anyone who's supporting you and how people can get in touch with you too. Feel free.
Absolutely. Well, I'll go ahead and share my screen and get our PowerPoint up.
Yeah, now's a great time for anybody to put anything in the chat that they want to ask a question or just say hi. You know, maybe whether or not you're a backyard herbalist or if you're just trying to figure out why a dandelion shouldn't be sprayed with glyphosate.
Yeah, great. And we will have some time at the end of our presentation for questions as well too. So definitely put your questions in there. I'm Alex from the Tend and Flourish School of Botanicals, a local school that's focused on botany and herbalism, plant identification. We have our Herbal Foundations program that you learn the basics of herbal medicine, the foundations, which include herbal concepts, herbal actions, which we'll talk about in a little bit. We learn how to grow, harvest, and make herbal preparations of all varieties. We use culinary herbs and medicinal herbs. And we're gaining the skills necessary to give you confidence to treat minor ailments, acute conditions like a headache, a tummy ache, sprain, or strain. And our Herbal Foundations program is 56 hours. We have field trips, online lectures, all of the good stuff. We also offer a Homegrown Apothecary Apprenticeship.
And that one happens at Flourish Farm in Godfrey, Illinois, and it's spring through summer. It's a program where you can actually learn how to grow the medicinal herbs, learn proper harvesting and drying techniques, and then each participant goes home with a fully equipped homegrown apothecary. You can stock your own apothecary with different medicines, salves, tinctures, tea blends, and fresh herbs to take home and dry yourself. So that's really a fun part of the program.
Like those blackberries there in that photo?
Yes. Yeah.
God, I love those.
So this participants in our program learn how to use medicinal herbs that we grow. So annuals such as tulsi, holy basil, as well as we use weeds that would be regarded as weeds, such as this yellow dock. This picture series illustrates harvesting yellow dock and making yellow dock seed crackers. So it's a good way to use the weeds in ways that you can have for food, and they're really delicious as well.
Oh my God, and the photo you have on your homepage of your website at tendandflourish.com, I think, that's the yellow dock too. That is such a beautiful photo with the seeds just falling through your hand.
That's Virginia Harold took those photos. Virginia Harold, she's a wonderful photographer.
You can see her handle down below for her Instagram, Virginia Herald. Great photographer. She does a lot of our photos.
So we have also guest teachers, Monique Kirksey, the citrine goddess, on the right, far right with the elephant pants on, and Rona Leah, who is, her Instagram is Little Urban Nest. And both of them are really amazing, wonderful folk herbalists who really focus on community herbalism. Rona is an urban farmer. The citrine goddess, Monique, she does yoga as well as makes herbal products. So they'll be teaching with us and as part of our curriculum, and as well as some online classes.
Mm-hmm. And so I'll introduce myself. I'm Alex Queathem. I'm a bioregional botanist and herbalist. I studied herbs and herbal medicine out in the Pacific Northwest and lived there the last decade, and still teach at the Columbine School of Botanical Studies, which is centered around botany and field botany. We get out and work with the plants hands-on, spend hours out in the field. And so I still kind of go back and forth at this point. In the spring and summers, I'm out there, and I'm also here in St. Louis. Yeah. Crystal?
Yeah, and I've been farming organically since about 2007. And my husband and I farm together on, it's like a micro farm here in Godfrey, Illinois. And we have a CSA. And I just absolutely fell in love with herbs when I was 15 and have been studying herbs in great detail since, and did my training through the Australasian School of Herbal Studies. So.
And wrote a couple books too, I believe, right?
Yeah.
She's an amazing author. Yes.
Yeah, that's a big lift. Way to go.
Yeah,
So,
if you haven't seen any of Crystal's books, please check them out.
Stop. So these statements, I just want to go over that they've not been evaluated by the FDA. This information is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. It's for educational purposes only. And we want to provide some real caution to those who are entering the world of herbalism. If you're on pharmaceuticals, there are certain herbal interactions which could be very harmful if you mix pharmaceuticals with herbs. So beginning herbalism, it's best to stick with fresh herbs and tea blends. And there's very safe herbs, and we'll go over quite a few of them throughout this presentation. But stick to the very gentle, mild herbs when you're entering the world of herbalism. So herbalism is the study or practice of medicinal and therapeutic uses of plants, now especially as a form of alternative medicine. So we talk about herbalism, it's really things that everyone's ancestors have had so much capacity for and wisdom for throughout human history. Without plants, and we'll get into this a little bit later, but without plants, we would not be able to survive as humans. They provide food, fiber, and medicine, and also food for the pollinators and habitat for wildlife, food for the even the animals that humans consume. So plants are very sacred to really all life on Earth.
And our school, the Flourish School of Botanicals, we focus on community herbalism, which is a particular branch of herbalism. There's clinical, community. So community herbalism is going to be focused around traditional folk preparations, historical uses of herbs, but it's also going to incorporate modern uses, especially through clinical research through herbalists. So clinical herbalists that are seeing clients, and they document their progression and research. They can be trained traditionally or non-traditionally through self-study or apprenticeship programs such as ours. There's lots of options of schools all over the country and world. Community herbalists are there to support and inspire the community, make herbal education accessible, cost-effective, and available for everyone. The idea is that we want to create a ripple effect in our community. We share this knowledge, and we hope that our community will continue sharing the knowledge, and it'll just create ripples. Of course, we have these beautiful images. That's the image I believe that you were talking about, Bob.
That
That's
is the
yellow
one.
fox
That just
seeds.
was stunning. Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah.
This is an aerial view of Flourish Farm. So we, like I mentioned, we're a micro farm. So we have a myriad of perennials and annuals, fruits, flowers, vegetable, and herbs that we grow. This is Rona, our guest teacher, and Monique. Monique again.
All of our students really have an enjoyable time when we can gather and make medicine appropriately in a communal setting, of course. This was before COVID times, but.
Yeah, so much stuff has to go virtual now. And you've got some virtual programming, I guess, already slated.
Yeah. Well,
and have you been doing that already this summer? How's that been going?
We have several virtual workshops lined up from now through January, and we'll even have some through February, March. We'll try to do as many as possible.
Yeah. Drying herbs, processing herbs, doing everything together is just a really great communal way to grow.
So one of the things that we really delve into on the first day of any program that we do, any herbalism program, is we hold reverence for place orientation. We talk about the place which we're situated. So we talk about the geography and the bioregions and the ecosystems, but really most importantly, the people who came before us. And so there's many throughout this region along the confluence of the Mississippi, the Missouri, and the Illinois rivers. There's the Sioux, the Osage, the Sauk, and the Peoria. There's the Miami. There's so many different tribes that have come before us and tended this land and burned the prairies and savannas and tended to the forests and removed the invasive species put there by the colonizers, I guess I could safely say in this space. But it's really, there's a lot of devastating trauma that has also occurred. And we really, we want to bring awareness to that we're not using these herbs in a way that's disrespectful. We're helping to cultivate ecologies in our own backyards and bring back these plants that have become very rare, such as ginseng, golden seal, all of these plants that were once tended by the indigenous cultures. It's really important for us to hold reverence for all of those hands that came before us and to have respect for the tribes that still are practicing their own rituals in this region as well. So this, or if we want to go back one, this map, it's native-land.ca, and you can actually zoom in. Unfortunately, with the sharing screen, I don't think there's a way to actually click on the links and show unless you have a separate window. But this particular map, if you go to this website, you can zoom in anywhere in the world and see which tribal affiliations and their contemporary situations. They usually have links to each of the specific tribe, and that shows you where they have relocated to through many terrible treaties with the United States. But this is a great reference guide to get to know the place orientation of where you're at primarily. So thank you for holding reverence for people. In terms of the historical connections, humans have this amazing historical connections, as I mentioned earlier, with food, fiber, and medicine with plants. And so for food, obviously humans would not be able to survive without the abundance of the plant world. But for fiber, there's many forms of fiber that were historically used to create clothing and woven ropes and so much, like stinging nettles has cordage that you can make from the fiber of the stinging nettles. There's silks and there's all these plant-based materials, bamboo and hemp and all of these traditional fibers that have been used throughout time. And then, of course, medicine. So humans use plants for a variety of medicines. And really, we talk a lot about food as medicine as well. So these nutrient-rich foods that we grow or that can be found in our own backyards have so much medicine.
Yeah, and so herbalism is a form of alternative medicine, comparing to conventional medicine. And we focus on Western traditional herbalism or folk medicine. There are other branches of alternative medicine that you may or may not have heard of, like traditional Chinese medicine, traditional Ayurvedic or Ayurveda medicine. And then you can also have naturopathic medicine, the naturopathic doctors, which incorporate herbs and some bits of herbalism into their practices. With Western traditional herbalism and folk medicine, this is the historical uses, once again, traditional remedies, using herbs and plants and trees and fungi as materials sustain overall vitality and health.
And that's like on a daily basis is what you're talking about, as opposed to like, oh, I've got a bunch of symptoms, so how are you going to fix me?
Absolutely. Yeah, we're looking at a whole picture and trying to find the root of a problem, or just taking care of yourself every day, that you're not deficient in any vitamins or minerals, your health is completely full capacity, you feel well mentally, emotionally, and physically, all the above.
It's kind of like, I think I saw on your website you had like an immune system kind of package or group of herbs. Was that for sale that was on your website? But that's kind of like the idea to boost our immune system as we move into the winter, right? And just keep ourselves strong and let our bodies take care of themselves.
Absolutely. Yeah. As a vitalist herbalist, it's my belief to promote your body's own natural defenses for good health. So that would be by taking care of yourself, getting enough rest, drinking plenty of water, doing things that make yourself emotionally feel well, all of the above, using herbs in that manner too.
Being kind to others.
Absolutely, yes. Making people smile. But we have these, we focus in our Herbal Foundations program on some of these main herbal concepts or herbal actions for herbs. And these by no means are all of the herbal actions. There's so many more. This is just our foundation of a good place to start. And so I'll just kind of read through them. We have alteratives, not alternative, like the rock genre. We have alterative adaptogens for helping with stress, aromatic herbs, aromatherapy, carminative herbs for that stinky gas, astringent herbs. They dry, draw, and shrink swollen tissue. Bitters, that flavor that we've eliminated from our diet that is actually really great for our digestive system health. Demulcents are coating and protecting mucilaginous herbs. Diaphoretic herbs are going to make you sweat. Diuretics make you pee. And emollients are soothing and protecting for the skin, mucilaginous on the outside of the body. And then we have nervines, calming herbs or any kind of herb that affects your nervous system.
I'm sorry, emollients just made me think of, oh, I've just been slimed. But I'm sure it's not quite like that, though.
Well, actually, you'd be surprised. Some herbs can get pretty slimy. And unfortunately, there's a bad connotation around that, like, oh, slime, gross. But actually, it's coating and protecting and really good for your digestive system, especially if you have a lot of inflammation, which is a really common occurrence with the standard American diet we've got.
Great.
So for growing herbs, we like to reference it as creating your own cultivated ecologies. And so what that means to us is that we're mimicking nature's abundance and beauty and that intelligent system that is already inherent in nature, and we're bringing it to our own backyard. So instead of going out and foraging all the rare plants or the really amazing specimens, we're cultivating those, we're growing those in our own backyard. So if you really like, for instance, pawpaws, you can grow pawpaws in your own backyard. The same with understory medicinal herbs like jewelweed is a really abundant wonderful remedy for poison ivy.
I need a lot of that in my backyard.
Yeah, and you can plant it in your own backyard so that if you get poison ivy, you don't have to go spend 3 hours getting more poison ivy and dwindling or using up the last remaining patch of jewelweed this side of the Mississippi. You can grow it in your own backyard, make your herbal preparation for it. So we really focus a lot on encouraging others to grow medicinal herbs and grow it in polyculture guilds. So grow it in with a small food forest in your backyard, or integrate it into existing perennial beds. You can keep going. So we do use some, if you could go back.
Sorry.
We do use some landscape fabric because essentially this is a part of a prairie that we're growing it. It wasn't a prairie restoration project. It was just a wild grass area. So we took a tiny portion. There's still plenty of grassy prairie left beyond this patch, but we just took one little small section and did kind of curved beds to go with the flow of the water. So we kind of go against the flow of the water so that it filtrates down and prevents erosion. Now we do use this landscape fabric, which I certainly don't like the idea of using a weed barrier, but it's necessary because the seed bank on this prairie grasses and invasive grasses and very aggressive grasses was very hard to contain. So we have everything from blackberries to raspberries. You can see the cabbages looking really beautiful in the top section. There's tomatoes and peppers, and then the whole section where everyone is harvesting, that's the Tend and Flourish section. So we have about 48 different medicinal herbs growing in that small section, as well as pepper throughout the farm. So it's really simple to integrate them into your landscape, or even plant them in pots on a balcony. This is just the space that we are working with, so we're going all out.
I love it. Looks great.
You can start babies from seeds. All of these were started from seed in about late February, early March, just in little containers. You can also use recycled egg cartons or things. These were recycled pots that someone was going to throw out, so we decided to rescue them and use them for our plantings. So there's calendula and bee balm and yarrow, and it's basically like a little perennial medicinal guild in a pot, in a tiny little 6-pack that our students were able to then take those and plant them in their own backyards.
I like that, a medicinal 6-pack.
So is that what you do mostly with your herb growing, is through your classes? That's how people get a hold of herbs that you grow? You're not trying to sell them retail otherwise, are you?
We do sell them to some local apothecaries from time to time when we have an abundance. I do sell a lot to Rob Connolly of Bulrush, and at one point Vicia was buying some. Amanda from Forest and Meadow, and then Cheryl's Herbs as well. Those are our main people who buy. But to the general public, I don't have enough capacity as of yet, but I'd love to get there eventually.
Great.
And Alex would too. She's also growing a large medicinal plot this year.
And we actually used a lot of the herbs for our Herbal Foundations program. So we start them from seed, grow them at the Flourish Farm, and harvest them and dry them and use them for our herbal preparations throughout the different programs we have, which is fun.
That's great. I love that. Seed to table kind of talking.
Thank you. So we really focus primarily on the ethics of herbalism in our program. So one component or aspect of that for us is finding the plants that are native to our region and really planting a lot of those in our own backyards or community gardens or friends' houses or parents' houses, or someone that you know has a permanent location that you could plant a little garden at. Land is not accessible to everyone, but if you search community gardens, you might be able to get a plot at a community garden or plant at a friend's. And so We focus on a lot of natives that serve multiple functions, that have the symbiotic relationship with plants and people and pollinators and mycorrhizal fungi underneath our feet. The native plants in our region, specifically Echinacea purpurea, Echinacea angustifolia, those have wonderful capacity to attract local pollinators. They're acclimated to our climate. They help prevent erosion. They have a deep root system that holds soil in place. They're food for birds as well. And locally sourced medicine is stronger, more resilient, more potent when harvested fresh. So you wouldn't want to just dig up all your Echinacea in the fall. You would want to reserve some to continue to grow. We like to encourage people to plant a huge variety of medicinals and natives that serve dual purposes for food for wildlife and pollinators, and that can also be used in moderation for medicine as well. So purple coneflower, St. John's wort, passionflower, the Passionflower incarnata is a native mullein. It grows in this region. Butterfly milkweed, not native to this region. I don't think the Asclepias tuberosa is. It might be. I'm actually, yes, it is. There's certain milkweeds that are not. Elderflower, Sambucus canadensis, New England aster, jewelweed, and bee balm. Monarda fistulosa is a really good one for cold and flu support. And from an indigenous standpoint, it was called Oswego, and people indigenous to this river's confluence grew this and used it for just about everything, from treating infections to just curing any kind of ailments that would arise in that time period. So bee balm, Monarda fistulosa, is one of our favorites.
And does that have a scent like oregano?
It does.
Yeah.
A stronger, spicier version.
I'm hungry for pizza.
Great. We also touch upon the topics of ethical wild foraging and backyard medicine. And so wild foraging has become so popular right now. Everyone wants to do it. And there are definitely some guidelines that we love to recommend and suggest for people to start with, because we don't want people just going out and digging up native plants, rare plants, endangered plants. We want permission for the areas that we're picking. We want to know that we're allowed, if it's a conservation area and they're doing restoration, we wouldn't ever want to pick from that area. So it's really important to have these different it's like a subconscious checklist in your mind of how to get started when you're walking out in the woods, or even just on your own land. If you have a little bit of land and you'd like to go out and start harvesting, you want to learn the basics of how much to harvest. How do you make no impact or as least impact as possible? How can we propagate the plants as we're harvesting, so we're invigorating the plant stand rather than just totally demolishing it and picking everything that's in sight? We want to make sure that we're promoting these ecosystems. We're not endangering them. And of course, there's so many really fun, easy, different, like abundant weeds to start with, or like dandelion, everyone loves dandelion. That's a great one to start with. It's very easily identifiable. You're not going to hurt any rare plants. It's one of those ones that are going to be growing in the sidewalks and all throughout the city and urban environments. And that's another factor. You want to make sure wherever you're picking hasn't been sprayed by funky pesticides or chemicals, or, by railroad. They spray a lot of chemicals to keep the weeds down from that. So you wouldn't want to be picking right around the tracks. And those are all little things that, you kind of have to get familiar with and learn before you go out.
Or if you're on a downhill slope and your neighbor sprays Roundup, you certainly wouldn't want to harvest the dandelions in your own backyard in that case.
Mm-hmm. And here's some common edible medicinal plants for our region: the red clover, Trifolium praetens. It's edible and medicinal. Chickweed, great for pestos. Dead nettle.
Every gardener needs to know they should be eating their weeds instead of just picking it and throwing it away, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's crazy because most of the time these are pesky things that the gardeners are, we don't want in our little gardening plot. So we can actually pick those and eat them as as you're weeding. We've
That'll
got
teach that chickweed.
yeah, yeah. Chickweed's so delicious. I love it. Violets are really great too. They're medicinal. So are dandelions, plantain. You can eat that in your spring salad. And then when you get a bug bite, you can chew it up and make a little spit poultice and draw out the itchy stuff from the bug. There's wild grapes, lamb's quarters makes a great pesto. And of course, who doesn't love wild black raspberries?
Hey, Alex, the plantain, sometimes I've seen plantain-like leaves that have like a reddish stem on them. Are they the same?
There's a couple
Plantigomatia?
of different species of plantain. Yeah.
Okay. Do they all work similarly?
Yeah, you can use them all the same way.
Oh, wow, great.
There's lance leaf plantain and broadleaf plantain and then ribwort plantain. And then there's actually a native plantain as well. So lots to choose from.
Whoa, okay, great.
Yeah. And as always, it's always super important to have 100% identification, accurate identification for any plants that you're picking. I really highly recommend people, before you go out and pick a bunch of stuff and then go to the Facebook group and say, hey, is this what I think it is? Can I eat this? I suggest you go take a picture of the plant where it's growing or the mushroom where it's growing. Go back and ask the group or go back to the guidebooks. You have tons of guidebooks. You have dichotomous keys you can use. You can call the Master Gardener Center. There's tons of Missouri Botanical Garden. We have lots of resources. It's really important to have an identification before you just start picking, because you could pick the wrong plant. I mean, what if it was that really rare orchid and you mistaken it for something else? You gotta be careful as you're picking.
Yeah, the iNaturalist app is also a good one too.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Some of the apps, the iNaturalist is excellent, but some of the apps give the wrong information. Like I had a friend who, the app, she took a picture of pokeberry and it ID'd it as elderberry. So you really have to be very cautious with some of the apps. The iNaturalist, it's all botany nerds and plant people, and it's a really good group of like citizen scientists. So that's a pretty accurate one. But there's like Plant Snap and a few others that are not 100% accurate.
Thanks for that clarification.
Okay.
So then there's many different types of herbal preparations. So I have a list here in the next slide, I believe. So there's tinctures, oxymels, glycerins, or glycerites. There's infusions and elixirs. Oh my! There's teas, decoctions, syrups, capsules, pastilles, and then external applications. Those were all internal applications. External ones could be poultices, compress, like an herbal compress for a broken bone or an injury, such as that, salves, creams, body butters, and herb salts. So these are all just some very common herbal preparations that can be made in the comfort of your own home with specific ingredients. For me, the best way that I love to take herbs is just simply infused in water. I'm not sure if that glare is picking up, but just soaking your herbs in water and crushing them or eating them fresh is my favorite way, because you really get to know the plant that way and you get instant effects from that. But there are so many things that can be made, and the more and more I get beyond my practice in herbalism, I want to use less products, less things that, it's like the Story of Stuff project, but trying to get back away from just simple things in jars, and get back to the roots of it. Just go out and munch on the plant in the field, instead of having all of these ingredients where you may not know the sources of them. It's best to source ethically. It's very hard to find things that were made in a very eco-friendly way when it comes to a lot of things. So just getting back to the basics is always a good place to start.
And if anybody can actually name in the chat what herbs you think were in Crystal's water glass there, she'll let you know at the end of this program.
Scratch and sniff. Go ahead and take it.
Wow.
So this is some of the herbs and tinctures that we made through the school. We put up a lot of different herbs this year from things that we grew. And then also with our Herbal Foundations program, we make tinctures, teas, salves. So we do a lot of herbal preparations as well. And Alex, there's that calendula oil you were looking for the other day. I still haven't strained it, so.
I found it.
That's great.
Among herbal preparations, you can also do food as medicine, which we love to incorporate recipes of all different sorts where you can get your herbs in your food. Broths and soups are a really great way to do that, especially when we're starting to get into the cooler season. Who doesn't love their little cup of soup, by the fire or on a nice cool evening? You can add medicinal roots, herbs, fungi, all different sorts. Even your garlic, your onion, your ginger, all of that is medicinal. Be creative. It's really, I know it can get overwhelming and it can be very scary when you're starting out using herbs and plants and mushrooms, but just be creative, and use what you have on hand. You can also use leftover food scraps, as you can go to the market and get your fresh shiitake mushrooms, and then you cut off the stems and throw that in your broth with your carrot tops and your onion pieces and your garlic pieces. And then you can throw some herbs in it too.
And then we have botanical tea blends. You can use a wide array of safe, gentle herbs to make tea blends. Here we have a nice immunity chai. So I'd like to find an alternative to cinnamon because I've read recently that the cinnamon industry is not being very sustainable at the moment. So you can grow ginger and turmeric here. These were both grown. I grew these a few years ago at Earth Dance. You can grow your own turmeric and ginger even in pots on the front porch. You have to start them early and then harvest in the fall. They will not survive the winter outdoors. And then there's tulsi, and you can grow your own hot peppers for a nice spicy chai. I'm still trying to find an alternative to black peppercorn, but spice bush is pretty close. So might have to try adding some spice berries into an immune boosting chai. And then, of course, there's lots of things from the backyard that you can make tea from, like plantain and dandelion flowers, dandelion leaves, dandelion roots make an amazing coffee substitute and a detox tea. And then any mints, any of the mints that you grow in your garden, you can use for tea. Basils, I drink a tea with Thai basil and purple basil, just for fun. There's all kinds of things that can grow in your own backyard that you can make tea blends from.
You think Catherine Fogarty here must have known something about your personal habits, or she really knows what holy basil looks like, because that's what she put in the chat for your tea,
Nice.
your herb water.
Very cool.
And then Tara says chicory root too.
Yes, absolutely. So for cold and flu support, there's ginger, cinnamon, turmeric, garlic. Don't know if you really want to put garlic in your tea, but it really is a good, really lovely, if you just do like a garlic, sage, oregano tea, if you have a really bad cold, you can do a savory tea as well. Doesn't sound as as fun to drink, but it is really an amazing thing when you have a cold. Lots of different culinary herbs. There's so many different options that you could do for cold and flu support. And then we like to include these for natural stress relief: skullcap, oat straw, or you can use milky oats if you have those as well. Chamomile. There's St. John's wort that I would stay away from that one if you're on pharmaceuticals. But then there's motherwort, peppermint, and lavender. All of those are good for just calming the nerves. And then Alex will talk about cough syrups.
Yeah, and in our program, we incorporate a lot of herbal tea blending too. So we get to taste all kind of different combinations. And we also, for immune system, you can make herbal cough syrups, which are really great. This one's gonna have like ginger and turmeric and cayenne, sage and raw honey. All of those are gonna be really great for any kind of throat, sore throat or cough. We make lots of syrups and those kind of preparations in our class. I love syrups. They're one of my personal favorites. You can use it as a medicine. You can make a medicinal one and throw it on top of your ice cream. You can put it in your coffee, you know, your latte in the morning. There's so many different ways. You can have it with your sparkling water. You know, children will take syrups. Syrups are a great way to get the medicine down.
Just a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down, right?
Exactly.
And then we have salves. There's all kinds of things. We'll go ahead and breeze to the end here because I know we're almost out of time. I want to save some time for questions as well. So this is our Botanical Wellness Workshop series. We've got Intro to Herbalism coming up, herbs for immunity, herbs for managing stress and anxiety, make your own fire cider, elderberry syrup. Then we have some really great ones with Monique and Rona. So we have establishing healthy habits with nourishing herbs, healthy food, and gentle movements. And that's with our guest teachers, Rona and Monique. And then herbal self-love with Monique as well in February. So you can find all that information either on our Facebook page, which is Tend and Flourish School, or tendandflourishschool.com. And then we're also, oh, go ahead, Alex, sorry.
Oh,
We're also on Instagram as well.
Yeah, and so this is a little screenshot from our page. This is our Student Resource Center. We love to give options for different local businesses that they can either source herbs from or go to for help. We have Cheryl's Herbs and Forest Meadow Apothecary are great resources, herb shops and a herbal clinic. Mountain Rose Herbs is where we source a lot of our herbs from, as well as Oshala Farm in Oregon. Those are both Pacific Northwest companies. Herb Rally is a great website that has plant monographs, which they're basically just informational papers on each herb. And they also have podcasts, tons of really good information. Citrine Goddess is Monique, one of our teachers. Strictly Medicinal Seeds is a great place to get medicinal seeds. They're out in Oregon. And then another local source and herbalist, Herbal Root Sign, Christine, she has really great material for getting started with your children on native medicinal plant awareness and learning about herbs. And then of course, the United Plant Savers is a really big part of our program. Conservation, being awareness of the plants that are more at risk, and knowing when not to harvest them. You know, that's a really core component of our program, is focusing on plants that are more abundant, weeds, plants that you can grow in your backyard rather than going out and going to native plants and kind of ruining stands. And then we also have, and United Plant Savers is a great place to get that information from. They have an at-risk list of medicinal plants. If you ever have a question, you know, on your land, if you come upon a plant and you're looking at it, oh, I really would like to start using this plant, but if I dig it up, is it going to be a problem? Well, you can reference different sites like that to know. And then Mulberry Mud is another local herbalist, Rebecca Dawn, and she has a program as well that you can go through.
Yeah, so the local herb sources for anyone looking for just a small bag of, let's say, slippery elm bark or something like that, or, you know, mullein. Cheryl's Herbs and Forest and Meadow both have lovely herbs. And Amanda was gracious enough to offer 15% off for our students last year. And Cheryl's Herbs is where we hosted our Herbal Foundations program last year as well. So, and then again, Christine and Rebecca are also a part of the American Herbalist Guild local chapter. So, and that's actually how Alex and I met. So. And that is our Instagram page at Tend and Flourish School. If anyone, we usually have plant ID, little things that we do, recipes, just simple news from the community. So we hope you can join us.
That
Bob,
sounds
thank
great.
you so much for this.
Yeah, no, this has been really wonderful just to kind of get a nice overview. I mean, the photos themselves just speak volumes to how involved you are in so many different things around, not just growing herbs, but growing community. And, one of the things that, we're talking about growing health in our backyard. And when I heard a guy by the name of Moshe Feldenkrais was quoted as saying health to him was being able to live out your avowed dreams. And wondering, what's your take on what does health mean to you?
Well, Earth Dance has the mantra, health begins in the soil. And I think that that's so accurate. I mean, really, if you think about it, the foundations for life are in the soil and all those symbiotic relationships, and humans, need the soil. Really tending the earth is as important as tending our bodies, because without a healthy environment, how can we be healthy? So to me, it's a unified connection of stewarding the land and stewarding ourselves and stewarding our community. Really hearing the voices of all those that live in our community and supporting and uplifting each other and really sharing stories. In fact, in the upper left corner is Leah. In the upper left corner on our page there is Leah, and she has a nonprofit called Growing Food, Growing People, and that's Leah, Linnell, and Julia, and they all work together. They just got back from an urban farming conference on the East Coast, and they shared their journey with us. So they're looking forward to doing some big magic here in the Midwest. So we're happy to be a part of their journey as well.
And I would really love to add that health isn't necessarily just about one person and, just how I feel. It's about the community and region as a whole. And so that's what our hope for with offering these educational classes is, that we can all share and bring our own information to the table. We all have just our own unique backgrounds and our own paths that we've walked or are continuing to walk. And we can walk together and use all this information as a community and grow to be healthy and sustainable together. I think that's really special.
Wow, that's just beautiful. I really appreciate your ethic and your integrity around all these pieces and the ideas of community health like that. It really touches me really deeply. So thank you so much for being who you are and really activating the best of who you are and bringing it out into the community and sharing with us today. This has been great. I'm not seeing anything else in the chat right now, except there goes one. What books do you recommend to begin herbalism? I mean, I'm sure there's just one.
I love all of Rosemary Gladstar's books. That's
Rosemary Gladstar, awesome.
Personal preference.
Yeah, it definitely depends on what region. There's definitely regional specific books that I recommend. There's Thomas Easley's book for I forget what it's called, but he has all sorts of different ways of making medicine and herbal preparations. Rosemary Gladstar, Crystal Stevens has some really good books out there. Christine Brown just published a book as well. There's so many, and it really has to do with each individual. There are so many different branches and different paths of herbalism that you kind of have to figure out what you're interested. Are you interested in a clinical perspective? Are you interested in a community perspective? Or maybe you just want to learn herbalism for family at home, how to treat your kids and your loved ones and your elderly parents or grandparents and whatnot. So there's all sorts of different ranges of books and materials to learn from.
Great. And so, I was talking to Amanda Joker from Forest and Meadow the other day about the fact that Passionflower is actually a native plant to Missouri, and it looks like so crazy with all the stamens and everything all about. I mean, it looks like this crazy tropical flower, right? So Catherine Fogarty, she said that she has an abundance of passionflower that she has not used it yet. Would you have any quick recommendations for her?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can use it in all the herbal preparations that we talked about. You could dry it, you can make a fresh tincture out of it, cut it back. You can make a syrup out of it. You have anything else you're thinking of, Crystal?
Yeah, I would save a third for the pollinators because those bumblebees and little native bees absolutely love it. So we never encourage anyone to harvest all the flowers, but drying it for tea, it just looks so beautiful. You can do the leaf and the flower for tea.
It's going to be a very calming herb, actually so strongly calming, it's almost kind of like a sedative. It'll make you sleepy if you're tired and help you relax and ground yourself.
And there are some who have adverse reactions to it. So take a small amount first. Don't just make yourself a big old 24-ounce cup of passionflower tea in the morning because you'll be passed out.
Yeah.
Got that at the Quick Trip.
If you're not on any pharmaceuticals or have any pre-existing conditions, and it's really fun just to take a few flowers, pick a few flowers and put them in a cup of, a teacup and pour the hot water over it. And the color that comes from them are so gorgeous. It's like a deep green and they smell delicious. It's a very fun cup of tea to start out with and try.
It's like just enveloping your senses in the sight, the smells, the taste, the warmth of the tea. I mean, it just totally engages so much of your humanity when you're working with herbal teas, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Let's see if there's anything else out there. Yeah, I guess that's about it for the chat. I don't see anything else. I really appreciate folks that have engaged with us on that. We will have a recording of this so you can watch it again. We'll set that back up on our website, earthday-365.org. Glad that you all found us and that you wanted to engage with this introduction to community herbalism with Alex Queathem and Crystal Stevens of the Tend and Flourish, the School of Botanicals, right? And this event has been brought to you by Sauce Magazine, the Solid Waste Management District of St. Louis and Jefferson County, and the Missouri Department of Natural Resources. You all get out there, start growing something in your backyard and being part of the community and engaging with all the wonderful things that are happening. So thank you all for being here and have a good night.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for all those who commented throughout the presentation. Thank you.